was closing up at the toy shop that night, stacking boxes and checking the register. The store was quiet, the kind of silence that made every small sound stand out. I was tired but relieved, ready for the shift to end. It was just another ordinary evening, or at least that's what I thought. The shelves were filled with the usual: stuffed animals, collectibles, dolls, and the most popular one of the season, Labubu. People had been fighting to get them for weeks, and every time a shipment arrived, it was chaos. I didn't care much about them. They were just toys, but customers treated them like treasures. Some cried. Others shouted if they didn't get the version they wanted. I thought I had seen all kinds of reactions, but I wasn't prepared for what was coming that night. At around 8:30, the woman walked in. She looked like any other customer. Clean clothes, neat hair, serious face. She walked straight to the counter and asked if we still had Labubus left. Her voice was calm, too calm for how obsessive most people were about these toys. I nodded, told her we only had a few left, and she asked me to show them to her. That's when everything started. I guided her to the shelf where the last 3 Labubus were displayed. Each had a different expression. I pulled them out one by one, placing them on the counter for her to see. She examined the first, touched the second, and when she saw the third, her expression darkened. It was the angry-faced Labubu. Many collectors loved it, but she clearly didn't. Her hands tightened around the plush, and her jaw moved as if she was grinding her teeth. Not this one. Not what I came for. I told her politely that these were the last ones left, and the next shipment was delayed. She didn't respond at first. She just stared at the plush as if something about it offended her deeply. The silence dragged on long enough to make me uneasy. Then she looked up at me, and I felt it. Her calm mask had started to crack. Her breathing grew heavier, her face twitched slightly, and her grip on the Labubu looked more like she wanted to crush it than hold it. She whispered that someone must have taken the one she wanted, that this wasn't fair. I tried to explain again, but her silence was louder than anything I could say. The breaking point came fast. She threw the Labubu to the floor with a sudden movement that startled me. At first, I thought she had dropped it by accident, but then she lifted her foot and stomped down on its head with all her weight. The sound of fabric compressing under her shoe was sharp and violent. She didn't stop at one stomp. She kept pressing, grinding her heel as if she wanted to erase its existence. I froze for a moment, my body stiff, my mind trying to catch up with what I was seeing. I had seen kids cry over toys before. I had seen adults throw tantrums, but this was different. Her breathing got louder, rough, almost growling. She bent lower, pressing harder, muttering under her breath words that didn't sound like they were meant for me. This one is wrong. It's not the one. It's wrong. I tried to reason with her, telling her she couldn't do that I'd have to call security. My voice cracked as I said it, and that seemed to trigger her more. She stopped stomping for a second, lifted her head, and looked straight at me. That's when I realized she wasn't satisfied with destroying the toy. She needed more. She needed someone else to pay for it. She left the crushed Labubu on the floor and slowly straightened her posture. Her eyes locked on me with a sharp intensity that froze me in place. I wasn't just an employee anymore. In her mind, I was the one standing between her and what she wanted. She charged toward the counter, her arms knocking over a stack of displays. The sound of falling boxes echoed in the empty shop, and I stepped back instinctively, my heel catching on the edge of the mat behind me. My body stumbled, almost falling, but I grabbed the counter to keep myself upright. The look on her face was something I'll never forget. Red, twisted with rage, her eyes wide like she was seeing me as something less than human. "You're hiding them," she screamed. "I know you are. You don't think I see it?" I tried to explain again, to calm her down, but my words didn't matter. She reached over, grabbing the display stand and throwing it across the aisle. Toys scattered across the floor, hitting shelves and rolling under tables. The crash made the whole shop feel smaller, like there was no space left to breathe. Her frenzy escalated with every second. She grabbed items off the shelves and hurled them across the store, knocking down entire rows. Every sound made my chest tighten. I was the only one there. No customers, no coworkers, no security guard. Just me, trapped with her. Then her hand landed on the scissors we kept on the counter for packaging. They weren't big, but in that moment, they looked sharp enough to cut through anything. She gripped them tight, her knuckles white, her breathing uneven. And that's when the fear truly set in. She advanced on me, scissors raised, her voice cracking with rage. "You lied to me! You're keeping it! You know where it is! Give it to me or I'll make you regret it!" Her words spit out like venom, sharp and cutting through the little courage I had left. I backed away, my legs shaking, and reached the storage door. My hands fumbled at the handle, but it was locked, and the keys were still in the register. She noticed. She saw me cornered, and her grin twisted unnaturally as she raised the scissors higher. She slashed through the air, the blades whistling inches from my arm. I stumbled sideways, nearly losing my balance, my palms scraping against the floor as I fell. Pain shot through my hands, but adrenaline kept me moving. I scrambled up, ducked behind a shelf, and pulled it slightly to block her path. She slammed into it with surprising force, sending toys tumbling down on top of me. A heavy box struck my shoulder, making me gasp, but I pushed through, crawling out before she could pin me. The sound of her footsteps followed sharp, fast, relentless. She knocked down another shelf, her screams echoing through the store. "You can't hide from me! You'll pay for this!" Every word felt like it was closing in on me, leaving no space, no escape. My chest hurt from how fast I was breathing. I knew I couldn't keep running forever. The sudden wail of sirens outside cut through the chaos like a blade. Blue and red lights flickered against the store windows, bouncing across the walls. She froze, her body stiff, the scissors still trembling in her hand. For a moment, I thought she might turn them on herself. But then, the pounding on the glass door pulled her attention. Police stormed in seconds later, shouting commands. She screamed back, waving the scissors wildly, refusing to drop them. They surrounded her, moving cautiously, but she thrashed and kicked, her screams turning into shrieks. It took 3 officers to drag her down, and even then, she fought, clawing at their arms, kicking her legs so hard the soles of her shoes left black streaks on the floor. I stood by the counter, frozen, watching as they hauled her away. She kept screaming about the Labubu, about how it belonged to her, about how everyone was against her. Her voice faded only when the doors closed behind them, but the ringing in my ears stayed. For a long time, I didn't move. The crushed Labubu was still on the floor, staring up at me with its angry, stitched face, and I couldn't shake the feeling. It was laughing. The shop looked like a war zone after they left. Shelves tilted, toys scattered, pieces of broken displays across the floor. I started clinging with hands that wouldn't stop trembling, my body moving automatically while my mind replayed every detail. Her face, her voice, the scissors slicing the air. I couldn't stop hearing it. The next day, customers came in like nothing had happened. They asked for Labubus again, complained about the prices, demanded boxes without dents. The routine felt surreal, like the world had simply ignored the madness of the night before. But I couldn't ignore it. Every time someone asked me for a Labubu, my throat tightened. I heard later that she had been taken to a psychiatric facility. Some people said she had been unstable for years. Others laughed, saying collectors were crazy anyway. To them, it was just another story. But I knew better. I had been there, trapped in that store with her, feeling her rage up close. Now when I see someone obsessed with getting the exact toy, I don't just see impatience or greed. I see her face, her eyes, the scissors in her hand. I know how quickly obsession can turn to destruction. And I know one thing for sure. Sometimes the real danger isn't the toy people want, but the monster they become when they don't get it.
This story is based on the death of a woman who fell from the 3rd floor of a shopping mall in China during a massive sale of Labubu stuffed animals. Chaos erupted when the products sold out quickly, leading to pushing, screaming, and disorder. It is still unclear whether the woman fell accidentally or jumped voluntarily. The incident has sparked a debate about the dangers of extreme fads and uncontrolled consumerism. The mall was already boiling over with people when I stepped inside. It wasn't shopping anymore. It was a mob. Everyone was moving too fast, elbowing through the corridors, holding bags tight as if they were running from a disaster instead of chasing toys. Guards were scattered, shouting through megaphones, but the crowd swallowed their voices. I didn't come to buy anything. I just wanted to see how far the obsession would go. Social media had made it sound insane. Grown adults fighting for stuffed animals. Stores emptied in minutes. The videos were everywhere. Now I was here, on the 3rd floor where the store was about to open, waiting with the rest. The smell of sweat, food, and perfume mixed into something sour. Strangers pressed against me. Phones were raised, recording everything. I tried to keep calm, but there was no space, no way out. At that point, it still looked like nothing worse than a chaotic sale. I didn't know I was walking into something I wasn't supposed to see. When the barriers came down, the crowd didn't just move forward. It crushed forward. The sound was violent, like metal grinding. People screamed, shoved, cursed. I had no control over my body. My feet barely touched the floor as the mob dragged me toward the entrance. Inside, the boxes were gone in minutes. Employees shouted, but nobody cared. People tore at each other's bags, searched the counters. Some even climbed shelves. The panic spread faster than reason. That's when I saw her. A woman in a red jacket, just a few steps ahead of me. She wasn't frantic. She was calm. Too calm. And in her arms, pressed like it was a newborn, she held a Labubu plush. Her eyes weren't on the crowd. They were on the toy, locked, unblinking. When the stock was gone, the shouting got worse. People realized they had nothing. Anger mixed with desperation. But the woman in red didn't look back. She kept retreating, slowly, protecting her prize. I thought she was just smart. I didn't know yet what she was about to do. The mob pushed harder, crushing everyone against the railing of the 3rd floor. My chest burned, my arms pinned. A girl near the edge screamed, gripping the metal bar to keep from falling over. People shouted at her to move, but there was nowhere to go. Her face twisted with panic as her body bent further out with every shove from behind. The woman in red was right next to her now. She didn't look at the girl, not at first. She was still stroking the plush, lips moving like she was whispering to it. But then her eyes lifted, and she stared at the girl clinging to the rail. A boy tried to snatch her toy. She shoved him so hard he fell, his head smacking the floor. No one helped him. He crawled away bleeding, lost in a sea of bodies. She never broke her grip. The screaming grew louder as the crowd surged again. The girl's arms shook violently, her grip slipping inch by inch. My throat tightened. I could see the woman in red watching her, measuring the moment. And then she moved. Her hand rose slowly, deliberately, while the mob fought for air. For a second, it looked like she might steady the girl, help her balance, but the hand pressed flat against her back. It wasn't an accident. I saw the fingers flex, the force behind them. And then the girl was gone. The scream ripped through the floor. Her body dropped, arms flailing, until the sound of impact cut everything silent. A sickening crack echoed from below. People froze. Then chaos erupted again, worse than before. Phones went up, some filming her body, others calling for help. I stared at the woman in red. She lowered her hand, adjusted the toy in her arms, and turned away as if nothing had happened. Her face stayed calm, empty, untouched by the screams. Nobody noticed. Nobody, except me. The mob pushed me back. I wanted to scream what I had seen, but my voice broke. The noise swallowed everything, and as security rushed past me, I realized the woman in red was already gone, slipping deeper into the crowd like she had planned it all along. The mall dissolved into a panic. Security tried to clear the area, but people shoved, argued, and cried. The body below was covered with jackets, but the blood had already spread across the tiles. Impossible to hide. Phones flashed. Live streams screamed with comments. I kept searching for her. That red jacket, that face. But she was gone, like she had melted into the crowd. My chest was tight. I knew the truth, but the videos would only show the fall. Her hand, the push, had been hidden by the crush of bodies. Police arrived quickly, set up barriers, forcing people down the emergency stairs. I was dragged with them, my legs shaking. Around me, people whispered theories. Some swore she slipped. Others said she had jumped. Nobody mentioned murder. I didn't notice at first that someone else was watching me. Among the screams and sirens, I felt a weight in the back of my skull, like eyes burning into me. When I turned, just for a second, I saw her. The woman in red, standing still while the crowd surged around her. Her face was calm, but her eyes weren't on the toy anymore. They were on me. And then she vanished again. Outside, the parking lot was flooded with people. Ambulances, police cars, flashing lights, reporters setting up cameras. Everyone was focused on the tragedy. Nobody cared about the witnesses. Nobody noticed me trying to keep moving, pushing through the chaos. But I knew she hadn't left. I could feel it. My eyes darted through the mass of strangers searching for Red. Every time I thought I saw her, she was gone, swallowed by bodies. My pulse pounded so loud it drowned the sirens. By the time I reached the street, the sun was going down. I told myself I was imagining it, that she hadn't really looked at me that way. But as I walked home through alleys and empty bus stops, I kept glancing over my shoulder. And every time I swore I caught a glimpse of her, the woman in red, watching. When I reached my apartment, I locked the door twice. I sat in the dark trying to convince myself it was over. But the quiet didn't last. A faint sound came from the hallway outside. Slow, steady footsteps stopping right at my door. The handle rattled once, then silence. My breath caught in my throat. I grabbed the nearest thing I could, a kitchen knife, and stood frozen. Minutes passed, or maybe just seconds, before the noise stopped. I told myself she was gone. I told myself I was safe. Later that night, when I finally dared to step outside, the hall was empty. But as I turned back toward my apartment, I froze. A Labubu plush was lying on the floor, right in front of my door, its stitched smile staring up at me. The Labubu had a note.
Now I know where you live. You didn't see anything that happened at the mall. If the police knock on my door, you're dead.
I never confessed to anything. I'm no hero, and I'd rather protect my life. If there's a reason I'm telling you this, it's because I think that person will come after me. Sometimes I see her hanging around my house, although I'm not sure if it's her. I could only guarantee one thing. I have everything prepared in case something happens to me. So if anyone hears this story, I was right. But that also means I won't be alive when you hear this.
I'm Avery, and everything started the night I brought home a Labubu from the flea market. The vendor almost begged me to take it, selling it for a few coins. It wasn't cute, not even close. Its teeth looked carved with a knife, and the fur was sticky in patches. I dropped it on a chair in my bedroom, thinking I'd throw it out the next day. At first, it was just background. I barely noticed it while I cooked or scrolled on my phone, but every night I caught myself staring at it too long. The eyes didn't sit right. One was lower, pointing off to the side like it was watching something I couldn't see. I told myself it was just bad stitching. Still, I left the lamp on at night. I didn't want the thing to be the last shape I saw before sleep. By the end of the week, I was already thinking about throwing it away. I just didn't know what it really was yet. The first sign came in the middle of the night. The blanket slid, slow, like a hand was pulling it. I opened my eyes and the Labubu sat on my chest, teeth bared, staring straight at me. I shoved it off, scrambled to the bathroom, and stayed there until morning. The next day I told myself it was a dream, but the bruise on my shoulder said otherwise. I stuffed the toy in a trash bag and left it in the dumpster outside. When I came home later, it was back on the chair like nothing had happened. That night, I tried taping it shut inside the closet. By morning, the tape was ripped and the closet door wide open. The toy sat on my pillow, mouth stretched into that awful grin. I stopped sleeping properly. I stayed awake waiting for it to move, and when it finally did, I wished I had never watched. The sounds started. Not voices, not words, just a broken gasp, the kind you hear from a kid with a bad cough. It came from under the bed, from the closet, from the hall. Wherever the toy wasn't, that's where it came from. One night, the weight dropped on me again. Small claws dragged down my arm, scratching deep enough to draw blood. I kicked, hit, anything to shake it off. The lamp fell and smashed on the floor. In the dim glow from outside, I saw the Labubu standing on the mattress, head tilted, fur dripping like it had just come out of water. I grabbed it and shoved it into the oven. I turned the heat as high as it went. Smoke filled the kitchen, choking me, but I kept the door shut until the thing shriveled into black lumps. I thought I was free, but when I turned, it was already back on the chair. Not burned, not broken, just waiting. Its mouth opened a little wider than before. I started talking to it without meaning to, demanding what it wanted, threatening it, begging. The answer came not from the toy but from somewhere deep in the room, a voice that wasn't loud but heavy, pushing against my skull from the inside. Give. That was the word. Short, sharp, final. Not destroy, not abandon, give. I didn't know what that meant. I tried to ignore it, but the word followed me. In the shower, over the sound of the water, in the fridge motor's hum, even in my dreams, always the same. Give. The nights blurred together. I wasn't in control anymore. I just wanted to see what the Labubu would do next. I walked into the spare room one night and froze. The Labubu was already there, sitting in the middle of the floor. Its head was tilted back, teeth glinting in the light from the hallway. I didn't move. I couldn't. Behind it, the wall darkened. A stain of black spread upward, stretching taller until it touched the ceiling. The shape thickened, pulling itself forward until it wasn't a flat mark anymore, but a body, twisted and long like a man stretched too far. The head brushed the plaster above. The arms dragged across the floor, and the face had no eyes, only a wide gap lined with teeth sharper than the toy's. The room filled with a rattling sound, like hundreds of breaths drawn at once. The thing lunged, not slow, not creeping, fast. So fast the air seemed to split around it. I bolted backward, slamming the door just as its claws tore across my arm. The lock clicked, and I pressed my weight against it as the door shuddered with every impact. I ran. I didn't look back. My arm burned where the cut bled, but I didn't stop until I was out of the apartment. I threw the key into the storm drain outside and left the door locked forever. For days I slept on a friend's couch, trying to convince myself it was over. The apartment was locked, the key was gone, whatever was in there, I wasn't going back. I tried to forget. Then one Saturday my cousin Ethan came over with his little boy Martin. They stopped by unexpectedly, and before I could stop him, Martin had wandered down the hall. He came back holding the Labubu. Somehow, impossibly, it was here again in my new place. "Can I keep it?" he asked, hugging it to his chest. My throat tightened. I wanted to scream no, to snatch it away, but the word wouldn't leave my mouth. I forced a nod. He smiled and ran to show Ethan. They left with it, Martin clutching it like it was the best thing he'd ever owned. That night, my apartment was silent. No gasps, no scratching, no voices. For the first time in weeks, I slept. 3 days later, the call came. Ethan's house had burned down in the middle of the night. No one made it out except one thing. Firefighters found Martin's body in the wreckage, but next to him, untouched by flames, sat the Labubu. Not a mark on it. I stayed silent while everyone grieved. Now I keep that secret. Their deaths were the cost of my survival. That somewhere in the ashes of that house, the Labubu still waits for the next person I'm too weak to save.